My mic. Okay, we officially declare the public hearing for the Bakersfield Planning Commission open at 7:23 p.m. And I'd like to thank those who reminded me that we had moved the meeting from Monday to Thursday tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay. So introductions, we'll start at your end, Tammy,
Tammy Brennan.
Nikki Cribb.
and Bill Newman. And we have two other members, but with 3 of 5, we are a quorum, so we can move on. We'll go then to the preliminary hearing for the Allen Murphy boundary line adjustment. Is there someone here to speak to that?
I can speak to that. Alex said that here with Barnard and Jarvis.
Can you come on up to the mic and turn it on?
Thanks. All right, Alex Smith here with Barnard and Jarvis surveying. And yeah, we're proposing the fixed area allocation for 2 acres to be retained with the Murphys. And then the remaining 3.5 acres is being sold to the Allens. And that's adjoining the Allen lot, the existing lot from there. So we have their existing acreage on that parcel is 112.8. So that would then be after the boundary line adjustment 116.3 acres. And then the 2 acres would remain with the Murphys. We have a designated area for backup septic. Ready to be sent to the state once we go through the town process. We are proposing an easement around the backup area.
And that part's on the proposed land for the
For the
Allens.
Allens, yes, so they would.
Have an
Yes, they
easement.
would have that easement on their part of it.
Can you turn your mic on to say that?
That's at their, the proposed backup septic is on the property of the Allens.
Part of it.
Part of it
yes,
is.
Yeah, in the easement.
About
yes.
half of it, so there'd be an easement in the deed.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get familiar with this. You're obviously very familiar with it, so you spoke to it easily and rapidly. So I see Gambler Road, and that's the road that kind of comes off of and goes back on to Route 108.
Correct.
And this is then a property that is on an existing access drive that comes off of Gambler Road. And then,
Right, so the map is there in the bottom left there.
yeah,
That kind of shows the remaining land that the 3 acres would go to. So that's kind of showing the overall 112 acres.
right. So the lot that is being created by a fixed area allocation is denoted by the red line in the drawing
That's correct.
has the house, the gravel drive, outbuildings.
Yeah, there is, right, and then on the other side of Gambler Road, they have their little barn and stuff. That wasn't shown on this.
Is your red line going through the septic, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's thicker than.
Yeah.
So there's no like road frontage for this piece. There's no road frontage for this piece, but it attaches to existing lands. Right, so that doesn't matter.
Well, the road frontage is on Gambler Road.
But does it actually hit it?
The remaining 3.5 acres,
It's the-
right, technically doesn't have road frontage, it goes on to the.
Which would just attach to the
parcel,
112,
Does have the road
which
frontage.
has
on
road
the-
frontage on both
On
sides.
the lake there,
Right.
right, so we're kind of throwing the zoomed in portion of.
Yep.
Of her lot, and then the detail on the bottom left shows there. You know, the remaining parcel of the islands that.
And the parcel of 112 acres plus or minus 8.8 rather. Does that have any existing dwellings on it?
I don't believe so.
The 112 acres. No, my son built a house on it, it should built on that lot, that's on a separate lot of 2 acres, more or less, I believe. And that access, the road that goes up.
Oh, Ramsey and Emily?
Yes, so that was
Yeah.
previously subdivided out of there.
They get their access, they get their road frontage off of the access road. Which went in front of the plan.
Yeah, existing access drive. Oh. Right there.
Right, so that was a previously approved subdivision there. Yeah.
So have you looked at the bylaws relative to fixed area allocations?
I have looked at them, yeah.
And do you see any concerns of this particular request relative to our bylaws?
We did not know,
So fixed area allocation is described Article 7.5, page 62 of our bylaws. And I just wanted to make sure that we're all aware of what is described there.
sure,
So I'll just read it verbatim. The purpose of the rural and conservation zoning districts, which is where this is to preserve farmland forests while permitting limited subdivision. And in order to further the purpose of the zoning district, land may be subdivided within the rural and conservation zoning districts in a manner that helps protect agriculture, forests, primary conservation resources. So the standards for a fixed area allocation are a lot of no more than 2 acres that may be subdivided in the rural zoning district or conservation zoning district, provided that the lot meets the following. One, the requirements for a minor subdivision, we can look at those. The application shall meet all the subdivision standards. We can look at those. The current lot number 3, from which the new lot has been divided, shall meet the minimum acreage requirement of the zoning district. The new lot and the parent lot shall both meet the minimum frontage requirements for the applicable zoning district. And that was asked by Ms. Brennan about the,
the road frontage.
yeah. And number 4, additional lots cannot be created from a new lot that has been subdivided within the last 5 years. This is why I wanted to read this.
Mhm.
And then number 5, a deed restriction shall be recorded in town clerk's office prohibiting further use of the fixed area allocation subdivision on the parent parcel for a period of at least 20 years. Conventional subdivision of the original parent parcel in conformance with these regulations is still allowed. So that also is why I wanted to read these.
But this subdivision's on Allen property.
It's technically on
I
the
mean,
Murphy.
on Murphy
That's
property.
Correct.
And
Right.
your subdivision was on Allen property, so this has not been previously subdivided. This
So the one that was for the son earlier
is on Allen.
is actually different property than this. Okay. That was what I was really concerned about. I just wanted to make sure we were clear about it because
Yeah, so this is the Murphys who are
Yeah.
applying for the fixed
Right.
area allocation to go down from the 5.5 to the 2 acres.
Yeah.
And,
And just blend it to additional
right,
acreage owned by both. Basically a boundary line adjustment.
yes,
so you know, it's important for the Murphys to know that they are creating this limitation on themselves
sure,
that we just read.
yeah,
Which is what we did when that fixed area allocation for the 2 acres for your son was done some years ago. To make sure that everybody understood, because the people that created this bylaw some kind of like decades ago, they wanted to give the opportunity for this kind of subdivision, maybe for a family member, as has often been the case. But they kind of gave it a, one shot every 20 years. You can't do it like this year, then come back a few years later. Because then what you're doing is you're making a subdivision
right,
with multiple lots, and that's not what the rural and conservation districts are meant to preserve.
understand.
Okay, good,
The
good.
Murphys will only be left with 2 acres anyway,
Correct,
which
yeah,
they wouldn't be able to really subdivide.
right, right.
And then I just kind of for historical purposes, do you understand the Murphy's lot being small relative to the rural and conservation district requirements? Is that because that lot size preceded the zoning of this area as rural and conservation?
I believe so, yeah, it's an existing 5.5 acre parcel.
Right.
Right, so it was created before,
Okay.
yes,
Okay. So then here in the drawing, the survey references at the top middle talks about the survey in number 1, where it's taken. And then number 2 talks about a proposed 3-lot subdivision. So this boundary line adjustment is being described here as a 3-lot subdivision because it creates a smaller size Murphy property, a larger size Allen property, and then the new subdivision or so.
So the survey references are older surveys that we have tied into or
There's book
reference
58,
our
book
in
58
this
is a long
area,
time ago.
yeah, so number 2, the survey that you're referring to is actually north of this property.
Okay.
So it was done on this Allen property,
There's 2 different Allen properties.
yeah, right, so you see this volume 73. That is north of the Murphys. And then the one that we are attaching to is recorded in deed book 75. Right, so there's.
So does that have to be on this, John?
saying that it was, his family's farm, that was 80-something acres, and they bought this. 112, so it's 2 different parcels, so this one that was done in 2016 by Bill Hannon. Was a separate survey done to the north.
Okay.
Why we refer to it is because on the north line, we tied into some of those monuments that were set at that time
Mhm.
by Bill Hannon, so we're showing
Mhm.
hey, there was an old survey done up here,
Yeah.
we're tying into those
Okay,
property
Back up those
corners.
corners.
So we're yeah, working to the south of that.
all right,
So then, right, so then number 3, survey reference was when they subdivided for the son.
2019.
4 was a survey that was done by his parents, Roy and Rose. So those are just existing surveys in the area that.
so now trying to figure out what's happening with septic here.
Okay,
Obviously, you've got a pretty obvious icon for that there, right on the line that's been drawn to create this boundary line adjustment. Who's gonna have that? Is who?
so the backups, proposed backup septic area stays with the Murphys. So anytime the property gets smaller, you have to have a backup septic area just in case the primary one fails. You have to prove to the state that you have an area for a backup septic.
Okay,
Yeah,
Um,
so that'll only be
so
used.
They dug test pits. Unfortunately, it falls right on the line, but to meet the 2 acres.
Yeah,
That's, you know, and then as long as both parties are okay with the easement.
yeah,
If their septic ever failed and they had to build a new one,
they got room.
they have room for it, exactly. They didn't sell off so much land that then they can't do that. That's what the state wants to see.
okay. And then for the new lot. Did I hear correctly that you're getting a permit for new septic?
No, there's nothing proposed on that. It's vacant land.
So it's not for development at this time.
It's to go with the existing sugar bush. That's currently being used. Right, so we're not proposing any,
No structures.
no structures, nothing on that land.
Okay. And are there electric or water or other utilities that cross into these areas other than that which are going to the house? That Just-
that existing spring. No,
You mean Ramsey?
yeah,
Yeah, that one, that's all been approved by the planning commission and everything, that's on. Actually, on.
but none of that spring goes to the Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy signed off on all that.
Okay,
To go back in the paperwork with the county's all has. Murphy has signed off on that map, it solely belongs to Ramsey, and that is up on the 112 acres. As far as electricity that goes across it, Central Vermont, or just the Green Mountain Power, they have poles that are set down on the main road, which would be 108 north and south. So right on that.
Mhm.
right, so as far as the Murphy block goes, they have the drilled well, which we show just north of their house. And then we show the overhead wires to the house. So there should be no other utilities on this 1.5 acre parcel.
all right, so. And. I'm writing up just so I can repeat this to you, so I make sure I get it correct. So I'll be right with you. All right, so this is a boundary line adjustment such that the existing lot belonging to the Murphys is reduced to 2 acres from 5.53. And the existing lot belonging to the Allens will increase from 112.8 to 116.3 acres. And no development is proposed for either lot.
That's correct.
Okay. Everybody understand that as I do?
Yep. I do too.
And road frontage exists for both lots of adequate size. Backup septic is depicted. And this is a preliminary that you're sharing with us tonight. It is possible if we have some action on this hearing tonight, that you could have this accepted as a final if we were to get a Mylar that had some
Contours.
yeah, the only thing I see that's not in our bylaws are contours.
Alright.
Contours are required by our bylaws to give us some sense of the development capacity of the land, because that which is very steep obviously is not, and that which is supportive of, for example, wetlands is identified.
Sure.
And so that would be really valuable to incorporate into any motion relative to this petition,
Sure.
to make sure that if we were to recommend that this were to be accepted as a final plot, that it would be therefore incorporated into the Mylar, that those contour lines for those purposes. Do you have any other?
No, I don't.
Well, looks pretty straightforward.
Well, it's kind of, yeah.
We need a motion.
Yes,
I would make a motion that we accept this with the proviso that we have the contour lines on the Mylar.
Okay, yep.
Second that.
all right, so we have a motion by Nikki and second by Tammy. And is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. So I can't think of anything else either, so I think we're ready for a vote.
Yep.
All in favor of the motion to accept this boundary line adjustment, please say aye. Aye. It's 3 votes. Are there any in opposition? Say nay, just to make sure. Nope, so it passes 3-0. And just like another one that I got to sign tonight before I leave. Once the Mylar is delivered here, we'll sign it and it'll get into the books.
Good.
So this will serve as the final too.
Yeah. Oftentimes when something is as simple as this, there's not really need for us to have a second hearing, especially since there's no one from the abutters who has come to express any sort of concern about the subject of the boundary line adjustment. And we have all of the fees and notices having been complete. That does give us a lot of availability of an expedited process, which makes some sense.
You just, yeah, when you send it in, I'll give him a call.
Yep, that sounds good. Yeah, we'll get it finished up and Mylar done next week when Mike gets back from vacation.
Okay.
So,
Well, I appreciate your patience tonight, given the unusual circumstances of the meeting. But glad again for your professional attendance to what's needed for us to make it easy to deliberate.
yep. Right.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for.
That's it.
Good. I wanted to make sure I had it
Yeah.
understood and
Yep.
that we were all three on the same page.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
See you later.
You too. Thanks. Take care. All right, so I did send out the minutes from the last. We do need a motion on the minutes.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay,
Second that.
that's good. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes as provided previously? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So it's 3-0. Don't see the zoning administrator. I don't know if there's anybody that's got anything.
Well, I know she had to leave, but there's this letter, the Stones wanting
Oh, yeah.
that building on the lot, and she's done a little research, and that part of that lot is in the river corridor.
Right.
And so she sent out a letter. This is a copy of the letter from regional planning. And they were saying she should check with A&R about the possibility of putting something on that. I'll do that.
So if you guys don't mind,
Actually read that.
if you could just sign, and I should have done that to begin with. Yeah, I saw this. And I didn't see this map. I think this is the first.
I know that she sent me that and I printed it right before I came.
So is it the regional planning commission that makes that decision as to,
Well, they referred her,
oh, the DEC?
yeah, to A&R.
Yeah, I think DEC is part of A&R.
Agency of Natural
Oh,
Resources.
thank you.
And then DEC is Department of Environmental Conservation. So we don't have anything ourselves. She's keeping us informed of this.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm just looking like at this flood hazard and river corridor regulations. Read, but zoning permit is required for all developments in all areas. Conditional use approval, non-conforming use approval, variance. But she was gonna see special flood hazard area. I gotta read this more. I was just looking at it, but all development should be reasonably safe from flooding, designed, operated, and maintained.
What are you looking at?
In the bylaws.
So what section?
Page 73, Article 10, flood hazard and river corridor regulation, which I have not read. Flood hazard area development standards, reasonably safe from flooding, designed, operated, maintained, and adequately anchored to prevent flotation, collapse, or lateral movement of the structure. Constructed with materials resistant to flood damage. Constructed with electrical, heating, ventilation, plumbing, and air conditioning equipment, other service facilities that are designed or located so as to prevent water from entering or accumulating within the components during the conditions of flooding, adequately drained to reduce exposure to flood hazards. There's a whole bunch of these. That's all subcategories under one, development one. And there's
That lot drops, doesn't it? There's
It
the bit
does
by the road where he's parking. the
It doesn't that
cars.
look close? We're talking a 6,000 foot structure. I think it was 3,000 or 6,000.
That's big.
Surely. I mean,
What was it? I can get the folder.
how big was the creamery building? Not that big.
I don't know if I would start.
So the property goes into the,
Goes into the.
River corridor.
Right,
but the structure
would be up here.
may not.
I don't think the structure.
And I
can,
think
because
that
I'm
that's
pretty sure-
probably what they'll be looking at.
Yeah.
And then when they look at the structure, development is permitted and requires a zoning permit from the zoning administrator, that all of the requirements of 10.5 are met.
$6,000 square feet.
Yeah. So we were just talking about it. It looks like the
I'm guessing.
property has actual overlap with the river corridor,
It does.
but that the area of the building may not. And then the development standards in 10.5
Mhm.
give requirements. It doesn't say you can't build there. It says that
Here's what you have.
things can't flood. Things are meant to prevent flotation, collapse, or lateral movement. Constructed with materials resistant to flood damage. And electrical heating and all that is to prevent water from entering or accumulating within the components. Drained. Located to minimize conflict with changes. It's gonna be big structure.
It's gonna be obvious from the road.
Now, is that, but that's in Fairfield, or is that a,
It's just a.
oh, that's right, it is on that side of. Hmm. Probably not exactly the kind of development people would like.
I know.
Look, as you go by, Bill, you notice where the stakes are?
I haven't really looked at, all I've kind of seen are the vehicles.
Can you imagine a 30-foot building that close to the road?
Yeah, I don't really think I need the stakes to think about a 30-foot tall building. That's just a
Well,
big,
if you notice where
building.
the stakes are and then imagine.
see how close it is. Yeah, that's the key.
Vertical stuff.
Yeah, so does Brenda have any
She's,
requests of us?
I think she just wanted it on the radar and wanted to know what we thought or what we gathered from our.
The first thing is that it's not. So I don't even know how to interpret the bylaw. Because it said in 10.4. Permitted development in the special flood hazard area is 6 things. Non-substantial improvements, so this is page 74 and 5. Non-substantial improvements to existing accessory structures, development related to on-site septic or water, building utilities, at-grade parking, and recreational vehicles. Then I think this is not
In the flood hazards area.
well, I don't know if it's special flood hazard zone or if it's, because they call it the 100-year flood zone. That may be what is. From that, I don't see anything there that says that it can be anything other than those 6. And then even if you were to call it a floodway or river corridor, this doesn't call it a river corridor, it calls it a flood zone. It's only recreational vehicles.
So this is the flood zone, so the river corridor is even wider.
If it's not depicted on there, I don't know what it is, but I would imagine that it is larger. And for that reason, I think DEC is likely to say that you can't put that kind of building there. I don't
I
know.
think that's where she's going. The A&R and get their thought on this particular property. And he was gonna let them know that he's waiting to hear from them. And she's, at this point, I think she's expecting to deny the permit and then let them appeal it to the zoning board of review or whatever.
Well, this could go beyond that.
Yeah,
because
no.
This could go to environmental court, but
Right.
because if it's an appeal of DEC A&R, that's,
Well, yeah.
then that would go to the environmental court.
Right. No, she was talking if they were appealing her permit denied.
Right. I mean, if you look at B, prohibited development
Mhm.
is new residential or non-residential structures,
And that's,
storage or junkyards.
and this is the storage shed, a 6,000-foot storage
Right,
and a non-residential structure.
right. So if he wants to get anything from us, it's not official statements, but the way we interpret the bylaws, I don't know if she's got any reason to permit that development there. The only exemptions appear to be removal of buildings, maintenance of existing roads, forestry, agriculture.
They removed a building because that.
They removed the
that
Cranberry
had-
building.
Well, there's not a building there,
It was there.
but they did obviously remove anything that could have been considered a renovation of that building.
Mhm.
Specifically, there was a foundation, there was some
Remains of a chimney.
some sort of structure above ground.
But it was probably nowhere big enough for what they wanted.
No, I would imagine it would have been a real kind of show to keep it in the original. You would have this concrete monument to a severely damaged building in the middle of your storage building,
Yeah.
which again is just a show, but I think that would hardly be considered the improvements of
I think this is proposed to be a storage for cars.
Yeah.
Like, cars that have been.
Yeah, and I think one of the things DEC may be concerned about, I would be personally, exactly. Cars are not just pieces of metal, they are full of all kinds of fluids and toxic
Yeah.
chemicals that are in the
which would be
components.
River corridor.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why he chose to do that. I don't think it was a smart purchase for this purpose.
It's better if it's on concrete than on the dirt it's now.
Actually, it was all a favor by getting rid of the eyesore that was there. But he may need to find another way to use that
Place.
property
Yeah.
than what he is thinking he's using.
18,000 square foot building, because you got 3 floors, right? 30 feet high.
Well, it doesn't say, I thought it said one floor,
think
but it
it's
was
one
30 feet tall.
30, 3 story, not 30. 3-story building
But I don't think there's stories in it, John. I think it's just one
he's
big empty
storing
30
vehicles in
foot.
30-foot tall building, what you're doing to the first floor.
Maybe it's because you lift them up or stack
As I said,
them.
there may be stacking or lifting of vehicles.
Well, that's what junkyards do. This is sounding like a covered junkyard.
But that was the premise originally, that they were talking about being what it was originally presented to us was.
This would be 30 feet from the brook.
Yeah, you're really talking, you don't want to talk ex parte, you want to talk as a part of this hearing.
The edge of the building will be 30 feet from the brook.
Originally was kind of. That they were going to be storing their cars.
This is one, number of rooms is one, so it's one big empty 60 by 100 by 30 feet cube.
So what was originally presented by Brenda to us was that they were storing cars temporarily there until insurance companies could come and do their bit, and then the cars were leaving, there would only be a handful of cars at any given time, depending upon how many wrecks that they pull up to the garage.
Sure.
Which is understandable, it's what happens, and what the concern was. Brought was, these cars are sitting out in the open, and then they talked about putting a fence up, like a privacy fence, which. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, originally we were talking a small structure. At least that's how Brenda had said it, I believe, at the meeting.
Well, that's
There was
what
something about the office.
He said he wanted to build a shed.
Right, a shack and a 6,000 square foot by 30-foot tall building is not a shack, that's a whole different animal. I don't know, by way of our bylaws, that's what you guys are here for. By way of the bylaws, is it permissible or not? And if it fits in our bylaws, I don't know how.
Then you can't prevent it, but
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to fit.
So
A shack would.
we've not been asked to officially
Right,
render an opinion, but if we were asked, I think that would be useful. I think that it would be useful also to hear what the state says first.
I agree with the state, because if the state shuts it down, then it removes it
Right.
from Bakersfield.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But if the state approves it, then I think it would be appropriate for the select board to consider an opinion from not just us, but maybe even an attorney, because the attorney can read our bylaws and actually provide a legal opinion. We can provide a quasi judicial opinion, which is substantial
Right,
and may be sufficient to thwart development. But it may be challenged and
so the other question from a totally different perspective, right, that comes to my mind, that's a business residing in Bakersfield. It's not just leaving some cars there until an insurance company has, you're building a big structure. So, there's that whole tax implication as well. For Bakersfield as a business residing in Bakersfield, like the gas station or the golf course or any number of other businesses that are in Bakersfield that has to pay taxes. I don't know how they would quantify that for storage, but that should, for that kind of structure, that's not a shack, a shed for someone to sit in. Like, classic junkyard, you got all your junkers and you got a shed there that the person sits there and says, hey, how's it going? Yeah, you need a part, or hey, you need to look at this, come on over here. That's bigger than my house. And my house isn't small. That's more than that's almost 1 3/4 times.
well, it's about as big as this building is altogether, both in 30 feet by 60 feet by 30 feet tall.
That's a big building.
It is.
But, if it fits and the environmentals, the department says that it goes, but I just think you need to wait for that to come back, as
Right.
you said. And then I guess it needs to come in front of the boards to make a decision. And I guarantee you, I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name. It's escaping me.
Carl?
Gentleman who came, I want to see Phil Promise. No.
Not Carl
In
Stone.
charge of the Bakersfield Conservation Committee.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, maybe Bill would.
Bill? Yeah, I think it was Bill came in and mentioned it to us in one of the meetings. That's who brought it to our attention about the cars being put there. And initially, privacy fence eventually being put up. I'm pretty sure him and someone. Oh, maybe Mark, you're right, it was Mark, I apologize. Mark apparently lives down there and was concerned about the officer, if he finds out.
I think he's
Sure.
just driving by, Mark.
He lives way back here,
But
yeah.
I think he's just driving by.
Concerned about the answer. I was gonna say, because the neighbors aren't gonna like that at all. And it's not that if it fits in our bylaws, it fits in our bylaws, but. You know, there may be some kind of public outcry to that kind of structure sitting on the edge of the road there, but.
Well, let's see what the state says and then we'll.
So, yeah, and. Who's Emily?
That's Emily Clark.
Oh, that Emily.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's saying that there's nothing more than this green. That there's not a broader area.
So you need a FEMA map.
Well. I think. That non-official is indeed important to say that this is not where you're gonna make your final decisions, but I think. What she's trying to say is that based on their map, which is probably reasonable, may not be perfect. The development itself is not within that. And by that standard, the development could go on. It would be if the development was in the green, that it would be a problem.
30 feet from this brook is where this, I mean, this little picture here isn't.
I'm talking about what the dimensions of the building are relative to the green. You know, if they can fit their building in and it doesn't go into that green. Or whatever is determined to be the official, they might be able to get. Conditional use permit is what she is saying. So the regional seems to be supporting. Development in the non-flood area, right?
Right. But they.
Well,
According to our bylaws, it would be conditional use, which would be conditional use.
Just keep in mind, we don't want to deviate this yet.
No,
we're just kind of discussing it, and so we've heard one opinion, which is the Regional Planning Commission. And that it's not official
Right.
drawings being used to make that opinion. And then we'll hear from the DEC.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out what if there's a name of this or a location of this property.
oh, maps, are they flood zones?
Supposedly visualize and more accurate. But I just wonder from this river, which basically touches the edge of their thing, 30 feet from there, wonder where their building is.
We really need some scale drawings and measurements made and. You know, they could put the building. Closer to Bakersfield and that makes it further away. They could change the building design to keep it out of that. I don't know, but. It's interesting that.
So it's
60 feet from the center of the road. 30 feet from the brook. Doesn't say,
where it is on the.
where it is on the. edge of it.
Right, we don't know where the structures, where the development would occur.
Well,
Can I'll just keep this.
it does,
This is another drawing.
because that's the existing.
I think this is just part of the, application showing you what we want. It's not his.
Ah,
This is just a
Oh, I see.
example.
Who's we?
The town,
The town.
the zoning administrator, like, this is a sketch and this is what we want. We want.
Speaking of sketches, so first of all, let's continue with our. So the next meeting is scheduled for August 7th. Unfortunately, I have a conflict on that Monday. I,
August already. Oh,
Painful.
I'll take any day, any month, whatever it is.
well, do you want to do the third Monday? Which would be what, the 21st?
So 21st. All right, so let's try and move it to the 21st. I can make that work if everybody else can.
Yes.
Good?
Mhm.
All right. Any other?
Are there others?
No, we really don't have anything else on the agenda other than the last thing.
I make a motion to adjourn.
And we
Second that motion.
adjourn at 8:13. Great. Vote three, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Adjourned.
Great, thanks, everybody.